Math and construction. Let's go.
So let's imagine you're in a project like this where you have a known starting point. This concrete's already poured and you want to do these pavers. They're not done yet. I just provided them here as a visual, but you want to maintain a 2% slope and you know that the length of this patio is going to be 42 feet long. How do you set up your formwork? How do you establish the elevations at this back end given these constraints? Let's take a look. So this is essentially what we're looking at, right? We have our known starting point given an elevation of 105.50 and we're coming off of it at a 2% slope. What is our elevation at this end, right? We know that the length of the patio is 42 feet. How do we find this elevation? How do we find our elevation change from our starting point? Well, it's pretty simple. We have this formula here where percentage slope equals rise over run times 100. So there's three variables, if you will, in this equation: slope, rise, and run. We're looking for our rise. We're given the percentage slope and we're given the length of the patio. So we plug these values in. 2% equals rise over 42 feet times 100. You need to know some basic algebra to solve for this. You get 0.02 equals rise over 42 feet multiplied by 42. We get 0.02 times 42 equals rise. Rise equals 0.84 feet, which is our change in elevation. So if we come back to our original diagram, right, we see that our change in elevation is 0.84, which is just over 10 inches. So that's how much you have to drop it from your starting point. That starting concrete elevation, you have to drop it 10 inches at this end. So the actual elevation would be 104.66. But essentially, when you set up your formwork, when you set up your laser level or your stakes and string line, your starting point, all you have to do is extend that out 42 feet and then drop it 10 inches. That's how you can establish a 2% slope at that patio. But one thing to keep in mind is that 10 inches is to the top of the pavers, right? Typically, when we're doing pavers, we see a section something like this where you have sand and then various gravel layers. So take that into account, because if it's a couple inches of sand, a few inches of gravel, you have to be able, when you're doing your grading, you have to subtract those amounts and dig deeper, right? So just keep that in mind. But that's a basic run through of how we can determine our elevations given slopes and given lengths of things, right? Blueprints with Bob, let's go.